Welcome back to Worship in the Trenches. I'm Josh Sahulik, and this is where Sunday's worship meets Monday morning. In November of 1947, Britain is still living in the long shadow of the war. Things like rationing are still in force, and bombs have scarred a lot of London. Coupons were what governed bread, clothing, and coal, and if you think about it, the skies had stayed pretty gray over these war-tired people. But on the 20th of the month, Princess Elizabeth marries Philip at Westminster Abbey. The bride had saved her own ration coupons toward her gown, and the government chipped in 200 more so that it could be made. Crowds then pack the streets, and a weary nation lifts its head and rises to celebrate a wedding. Even Winston Churchill is said to have called it a flash of color on the hard road we have to travel. So joy had broke into a long season of waiting, and this wedding has kind of summoned these war-torn people to look up. A country that had forgotten color remembered it, even if it was just for a day. That same kind of joy is what's going to run straight through the scriptures that we'll read throughout this episode. And it really follows one shape, that the king is coming. And the response his people are built for is to stand up and to arise and to go to him. This begins in Genesis chapter 24. Abraham sends his servants across the desert with one charge: find a bride for the son of promise. The servant prays at a well, and then Rebekah appears, and the family puts the question to her directly: will you go with this man, or will you go with the servant? Her answer is 3 words: I will go. She leaves her father's house, she crosses the same desert that the servant had crossed to get her, and meets Isaac in a field in the evening. The whole gospel is already sketched right here at the opening. The father who gives, a son who receives, and a bride who says, I will go. And we look forward from Genesis 24 into a book of the Bible that is often unread, and that's the Song of Solomon. And it tells the same story from the other perspective. Now the bride hears her bridegroom before she even sees him, and he comes fast over the hills, leaping like a gazelle. And he calls through the lattice, or this fence, and it says, arise, my love, my beautiful one, and come away. The winter is past, the rain is over and gone. So where Genesis sent a servant toward the bride, here, the bridegroom is coming himself, and he's running. And notice this, the seasons change when he arrives. And this is the pattern the New Testament calls the kingdom of heaven, breaking in. Now, Psalm 45 is the wedding psalm, and it really turns to address the bride, where the psalmist says, forget your people and your father's house, for the king desires you. So she is reorienting her loyalty, her home. Her whole name is now toward the king. And the psalm calls that joy. That's the shape of faith. Hear the voice, leave the old house, and be brought to the king with gladness. Now the prophet Zechariah names exactly who this is all for. 500 years later, the first Palm Sunday. He shouts, behold, your king is coming to you. He's righteous, bringing salvation. He's humble. He's mounted on a donkey. And then he turns to the captives and he says, prisoners of hope, stuck in a dry pit, and promises them release through the blood of the covenant. The king arrives gentle, and he arrives for those who are bound in captivity. And now Paul, in Romans chapter 7, he gives that captive a voice. He wants to do the good, but he can't find the strength to do it. Sin lives in him. The law shows him the way while leaving him in the pit. And the cry breaks the surface, wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from this body of death? Then in a single line, the answer, thanks be to God through Jesus Christ, our Lord. Which brings us to where this entire conversation has been heading. In the Gospels in Matthew chapter 11, the king finally speaks in first person. The king says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. He answers the cry of Romans 7 by name. He calls the weary the same way the bridegroom called the bride. Arise and come. So what does this mean for us in the trenches? If you're a pastor or a ministry leader, notice the order of the reading. The servant prayed at the well before he spoke to Rebekah. The bride was awakened by the voice before she moved her feet. Hearing his voice comes before the work of serving him. Ministry that skips past the place of meeting Christ produces exactly the weariness that Paul named, effort without rest. So come to Christ first. Maybe you're a volunteer, and this is for the weeks where the serving has really gotten heavy. The invitation is not try harder. The bridegroom says, come to me. Take the yoke that's easy and let him carry the weight you've been carrying alone. And if you're in the pew this week, maybe in the season of waiting, listening for a voice that maybe now you barely remember, standing behind a fence you've grown used to, the question is the bridegroom's own. Name that burden, just one, and carry it to him this week. Then watch what the king does with it. He calls himself gentle and humble in heart, the king who rode into his own city on a donkey. So in your home or at work, among the people that you lead, pick one relationship this week where you can answer force with gentleness and see what he does with the offering. His voice is calling from beyond the wall. The winter is past. Your king is coming. Arise and come away. So ask yourself this question this week, like Rebekah. What would it look like to answer God's call with, I will go? Or maybe you're trying to serve Christ without first coming to him. Where is that producing effort without rest? And what's that one burden that you've been carrying alone that you could name and bring to him this week? Thanks for joining me in the trenches. It's my privilege to stand shoulder to shoulder with you.